So, UFOs are real now. Let's talk about it. The mainstream has finally accepted that UFOs are a real thing. You can't deny their existence anymore. Of course, some skeptics still are wasting time trying to deny the existence, but I'm not going to make this a video about that. There's plenty of things you can go watch. The 60 Minutes, you can watch all these different interviews going on, and endless stuff beyond that. So we're past the whole, is it a weather balloon? Is it a crazy person phase? We're now into the phase of there are things doing crazy stuff in the sky that were seen, that were recorded, that were taken video and photo of, that were confirmed by radar or satellites, or sometimes when it's underwater, confirmed by sonar. Um, so, and they're doing things that are clearly not possible based on how we understand physics, based on what we are capable of producing ourselves as humans here on this planet in the known society, I guess we should say. Um, so we know that these things are there, and we know that they're doing shit that they shouldn't be possible to do. So it leaves us only into the next question, or the real important question is, what are they? How were they created? How did they come to be? And how are they doing what they're doing? And there's basically only two general categories that can fall into. It's either from Earth or it's not from Earth. And so I want to break this down a little bit for you guys. And let's start off with from Earth. I have notes, so hopefully I won't get too lost. The first thing is, taking this from an American perspective, it's the U.S. government, right? It's secret military that we have, the spy planes. We've had secret military government stuff that people thought were UFOs, and then later we came out and they were like, no, actually that was our spy plane flying, and we were doing its secret testing, and we couldn't, tell anyone what it was, and we just used the UFO stories as cover. And now it's 20 years later, 30 years later, we can tell you that it was our secret plane. So that's kind of one explanation. It's our government in some sort of secret program. Now, what doesn't work with that is the fact that a lot of our sightings of these UFOs have been at our nuclear sites and at our restricted airspace. So it's much more a phenomenon of stuff that's coming into the military's domain and bugging our military. So that's not really the history of what we do when we have secret technology, because you also want to hide it from your own military, because it's a compartmentalized type of thing. You have to have clearance, security clearance, you have to have access, you've got to be part of the right program. If you're doing some sort of secret technology, you don't want the whole rest of the military to know. You don't want intelligence leaks. So you don't go test your secret spy plane at the nuclear facility that your government is protecting and expose it to a bunch of lower ranked military people who now can talk about it. So it doesn't really fit. And so, okay, it's maybe, and also I guess the other thing I should point out is in the report that's coming out, at least the previews we've heard of this report that's coming out to Congress, it says that they are saying it was not any sort of secret programs. So, how much you can trust the Pentagon, I agree why there would be skepticism. But at least that's the position they're taking, is that it's not one of their secret programs. It's not like a secret spy plane. So then if it's not America, then it's got to be Russia or China, right? It's got to be that other humans on the planet have a secret program, and they did better than us. They've jumped us in technology. And possible, but what do you see when you look at Russia and China? You see that they're actually facing the same stuff that we are. They have these sightings on a regular basis. They have these UFOs going into the restricted airspace, that are flying past their pilots, that are doing things that are impossible, and they have their own programs which are investigating it. So that starts to look a lot more like, all right, all of the mainstream governments on the planet, because it's not just China and Russia. There's like a lot of stuff came out of Chile. There's like the UK, France, I think. What was it? Belgium. I think some of these smaller European countries. A lot of countries have programs that have been investigating it, and they have released their files. They've declassified not everything, but they've declassified a lot. And the stuff that's happening now in the U.S. is kind of slow when you look at what's been happening around the world. So it doesn't seem to be like, or it seems to be that all of the mainstream governments, the governments that are in some way at least somewhat responsive to the people, and parts of the governments that have some sort of civilian oversight, that world doesn't know what this is. They haven't created it, and they don't know what it is. They just know it's there, and they're trying to figure it out. They're investigating. So that brings us to our third possibility of something that's from Earth, and that is the secret shadow government or some sort of breakaway society. So basically what this is the idea that these sightings have been happening, and it's not just been sightings, it's also been crashes and retrievals, and other sorts of interactions have happened. And when those things have happened, they've been compartmentalized and put into the super secret stuff, or sections of like the military and so on. And when it starts getting that level, it starts getting put into things like what they call special access programs. But then you go a level even deeper, which is the unacknowledged special access programs. And so those are like black, super black budget. They don't exist at all, and they're unacknowledged. They're not considered to be even part of anything that we're doing. And they generally get put into, really secret things that are like not even within a government building or a government oversight in a lot of ways. It gets put into like civilian stuff, like Lockheed Martin or something like that. And they have the research going on, and they have the info about what's been going on, and like the back engineering going on there. And so in that kind of secretive world that doesn't change as governments change, it doesn't change, like the people who are there have access that, the president doesn't get to have, because the president gets replaced every 4 years or 8 years. And these people stay no matter what, and they work on these projects. And when president's trying to get access to this, they are denied access. So this seems to be, from what I've seen, very likely part of what's going on. And that group, some of it has even gotten to the level of creating a breakaway society where they've got these technologies and they're using them because they can actually leave the planet already, and they've been doing things off planet already. So there's kind of like a parallel world going on here. So these are three possible explanations for how it could be from Earth, how these things could exist. And this third one means ETs exist because it's back engineering from ET stuff. But then there's a fourth possibility, and that's a secret, unknown society that the mainstream humans have no clue about. Like what I was talking about was like our U.S. government that we all know of, but people within that kind of broke away and hid stuff and created their own secret stuff going on. What I'm talking about now is all mainstream humans don't even know that these people are also on the planet sharing the space with us. So think Wakanda, right? This idea that Wakanda, it's technologically, they've got basically what we would consider UFOs, right? But they, have always been here on the planet with us, and we just didn't know that was going on. And then another example of this, which is very controversial, but there's an idea around inner Earth, and that there's in the hollow parts of Earth, because not all of Earth is just one hollow thing, but like there's giant caverns, there's like ways that you can hollow it out, especially with technology, and that some sort of advanced life forms, humanoid life forms have been living down there, maybe for hundreds of thousands of years, maybe millions of years, and they're popping in and out. Now, why that's kind of interesting is that Luis Elizondo, the ATIP guy, has been saying recently that there's two characteristics to these distinguishable UFOs. First characteristic is this sighting at nuclear facilities, which is a very interesting topic, and there's lots to go into about that, but I'll save that for later. But the second thing is water, and that there's a lot of sightings around water, especially like a lot of this stuff is like out in the ocean. Um, and if you're looking at this kind of inner Earth idea, and if you have craft that can go through water, through space, through air, these transmedium craft, which is another characteristic of why these certain UFOs are different and distinguishing, then you can be living in the center of the Earth, going through caverns and having doors and things that open out into the water, and that you then go out through the water and then come out into to the air and hang out around up there, fly off into space, whatever. So, yeah, I don't know. Those are kind of the four ways that it could be from Earth. And not all of them, like I'm saying, necessarily mean that it's humans on Earth who created it. It could be other beings on Earth that are not part of our human society in any way that have created it. And we have no one coming from outside. It's just from inside. So that's one possibility. It could be a mix. I think there's a good chance it's a mix of the last two, along with not from Earth. That's the next category. So let's look at that. Because everything I just talked about here has an earthly explanation, no matter how weird that could still be. Let's move on to otherworldly explanation. Some sort of intelligent life forms that developed on another planet in our universe came here. So that's the first possibility. Some sort of extraterrestrial possibility. And that could mean that they have technology that's kind of simple. I mean, it's fast, the stuff that we've seen and so on, but maybe it's just really fast. Maybe they didn't like disappear into another dimension. They just moved so quickly, accelerated so quickly that we couldn't see it, And so something like that could travel fast within our galaxy, within, from one solar system to another. And when you're going that fast, it's still a journey. It's not instantaneous, which would be the extra-dimensional type of approach, which is the second group. It could be, physical beings from another planet that are coming here in physical crafts, but using technology that allows them to kind of wormhole, in a sense, or portal into another dimension and then hop over and pop up here really quickly. And so they're technologically advanced in a way that allows them to do these crazy things. And then there's the extra dimensional ETs, which are doing it without any sort of like physically made type of technology, but are really just doing it from more of like a spiritual place, because of these technologies seem to be connected with consciousness. I was just watching Jeremy Corbell interview with Russell Brand, and he emphasized this, the Princeton Anomaly Research Lab, and there's a lot of stuff out there about the ways that our brains and our brain waves and our basically our energy can influence our mechanical stuff, computer chips, all sorts of things. And so there seems to be a consciousness interface that happens with this technology. And then that consciousness interface seems to also then be tapping into these extra dimensional things. And then when you get into that world, you start to get into, like, I don't know, the stuff that you run into when you're on a DMT experience. And it starts to seem like we're really looking at something that's showing us that the base of reality is consciousness, and that reality is not built out of this hard physical stuff so much as we like to think of it, but it's actually based out of awareness, out of like pure awareness, and all these layers of energy built on top of that for that awareness to experience. And so it's like these. I think that's one of the most like exciting parts of this whole UFO thing for me, is the chance that through learning about these technologies and what these other beings have achieved and figured out, we expand what we believe is possible, and we start to understand the nature of the universe in a very different way than how we see it right now. And with that shift in our consciousness, it allows us to live very differently here on this planet and jump away, just like, in third world areas where they jumped over landlines, like the places that never had landline telephones. It just like the whole time landline telephones been going on, these people didn't have it because they were out, far as fuck away from everything else, and they were poor and no one gave a shit, and so they didn't have phones, and then they never had those phones, and then they had cell phones, so they kind of just skipped the technology. We're starting to go into like, oh, we have to save the planet, we need to do like solar and wind and these types of things. Yeah, well, we could actually basically kind of jump all that technology and go straight into what is powering these crafts, what is allowing them to, defy the laws of physics, and build a world out of that type of technology. And with the world of that type of technology, global abundance is very easy to achieve. And then if we just shift our consciousness into the state of interconnectedness and the compassion and love and generosity that arises, then we can very easily be living a very different life on this planet. So that was my rant at this point. I think I'll keep it that long because who watches more than a 2-minute video these days? If you're still here, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. And I haven't been posting or anything, but I've just been watching this UFO stuff go down. And a little personal story about how long was it? 10 years ago almost. I went back to get my college degree as an older man. I was like 26, 27, and made the decision that like I'd always kind of made it through life with like opinions that weren't really mine, but that I'd like heard what I thought of as like cool or intelligent people say it, and so then I just was like, okay, that's what I'll say when those conversations come up. And I decided I'm gonna go and take like a chance to like re-examine myself and use this kind of time of getting my degree in psychology as an opportunity to figure out what I think happened by me researching things. And in that process, I suddenly had to challenge 3 really intense beliefs that I had. First was about cannabis and all the negative views I had about cannabis. And then that led me into starting to question everything I'd known about psychedelics. And then through exposing myself to both of those, both learning about them and using them, then I suddenly was like, now I have to start questioning everything I thought I knew about UFOs and all the reasons I thought you can't believe in it. And I know it's funny because part of the reason that I was so dismissive of those things is that I didn't have enough info to really have a strong opinion. And I looked at the mainstream society and it was like, well, mainstream society says that if you are pro cannabis, you're, a lazy pothead, stupid, mooching stoner. If you are pro psychedelics, you're some stupid hippie, tripped out bum, or crazy person or whatever. And if you think that UFOs are real, then you're a total fucking nut job, and we can make fun of you and put you at the butt of every joke, and you're not fit in a lot of ways to be part of anything that's serious. And so, but all of those things changed for me when I started to do my own research, and then I suddenly was like, shit, now I can't talk with anyone anymore because I want to talk about these 3 topics and everyone's going to think I'm crazy. And now I'm sitting here like a decade later, and legalized marijuana has like swept the really not just the U.S. but in a lot of ways all around the planet. It's affected things. It's still not there. We still got a lot of work to do. But my view was always that that's the first domino that had to tip, because when you suddenly have a bunch more people okay with weed, it's going to open us up to psychedelics. And when you get people using psychedelics and cannabis both, as medicine to heal all the things that they can help heal, especially the mental health. And then we'll be able to see things more clearly. And then the UFO type stuff will suddenly be something we can work with and process, because it's wrapped up with a lot of fear. There's been a lot of attempts to wrap it into fear throughout the last, as part of like the cover up to keep the topic from coming out. It was, you make it into a scary thing has been part of the process. But I think now, this is the time of revelations, of all the different screw ups, whether it's in the UK and how incompetently they handled the pandemic, to what the origins of the pandemic actually are, to, just how fragile our economic system is, and what a waste of our life it is to be on this treadmill of work all the time. Like, there's all these things that are being reevaluated, that maybe we can actually just give people money directly, and that would actually, do more to help people than all these stupid programs that we come up with. There's a lot of new ideas, and like kind of a shifting of the consciousness, and the scariness of these things crumbling, and old thoughts and feelings crumbling, but also the like excitement, and like the open space to like examine things new in a fresh way, and to hopefully shift our consciousness into a place where we live on a planet where we take care of each other, love each other, enjoy the natural abundance that Mother Nature already brings to us, and that our wise use of technology can, make available to everybody. And then I think we'll be qualified to, start having some diplomacy with those people who have already figured out how to live that way. And they'll be much happier to have us around. And they'll stop having to go around and worry about our nuclear sites all the time, and worrying that we're going to sending nukes out into space to harm them and others. Plus, you don't even want to get into the damage that all our nuclear testing probably does on a subatomic, quark, other dimensional type of levels. We could be fucking up the multiverse, and we don't even know it. So, all right, guys, I think that's enough for now. And gals, and he's and she's and theys and thems and whatever. All I know is the Chewbacca's and the Yodas and every life form that's out there. Sending lots of love to you, and looking forward to all being galactic brothers and sisters together. Peace.